All right. I think we're on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is January 7th. Welcome, my dear friend Tom. Tom, so nice to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Happy New Year. I think,
Happy New Year.
yeah, this is the first time that year 2025 was to do our broadcast. And we have so many good news, so many
Right.
big good news for yesterday. That's a big day. And I saw President Trump put some writing on his Truth Social. He said, Congress certifies our great election victory today, a big moment of the history. MAGA. I am so happy when I saw this. I almost cried when I saw this. So,
Yeah.
what do you feel about yesterday, the certification?
I feel the same way. Interestingly, I guess I've seen so many things in my lifetime and career that are not good news or don't go well or disasters happen or you name it. And so I have to admit to watching the ceremony yesterday in Congress being run by Kamala Harris, I kept thinking, no, something's going to happen.
Hmm.
Something's going to end this. Something's going to prevent her from wanting to do this or completing the task or something. So when that whole ceremony went to the very end and
Hmm.
she pronounced that Donald Trump won the most electoral votes and that they were all valid and certified and accounted for, I just, the sigh of relief that I let out at that
Yeah,
moment would have been
exactly.
very noticeable to anybody else in the room with me. It was like, oh, it happened.
Finally.
They did it because I mean, for weeks and months, I've been waiting for them. And I'm not saying it's over because he still has to theoretically be sworn in by the Chief Justice two
Right.
weeks from now.
Hmm.
But I think the worst of all the hurdles is over.
Right.
Not that there couldn't be another one, they couldn't come up with something, but so far so good.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm so excited. I forgot to introduce Tom. I'm sorry about that to our audience. Tom worked in FBI for 30 years, and for 5 years, he worked as assistant director of FBI. He's retired now. Yeah, he's our dear friend and give us a lot of analyst of the current affairs, the current situation of the US and the world. Thank you again, Tom. And this is our moment. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So,
interesting that you're showing a beautiful sunlit Southern California beach behind you in the background. And yesterday, the biggest image that I liked that besides the ceremony in Congress, but was the snowball fight on the lawn of the Capitol. And I thought,
uh-huh.
that's what we wanted to see. People went there to make sure it was going to happen, but then celebrated just sheer joy. Because
Yeah.
yesterday, of course, Washington and where I live, we got 6 inches of snow, and in
Uh-huh.
some places a little bit more. But certainly it was enough for the people that came to Congress,
Right.
and many loyal Americans
Right.
wanted to be at that historic site, including my wife and many of her friends. They went down there.
Oh, they
And
went there?
and I was very worried just about the snow and the dangerous driving conditions,
Right.
more than anything. But in any event, they got there, they saw it, they saw the joy in the crowd that went there. And, so many times we see angry mobs, whatever the occasion is. Over the last 10 years, we've seen that so many times. And
Mhm.
to actually see a
Mhm.
happy mob, a happy crowd, a joyful event,
Right.
uh, that was really tremendous. And especially in the
Mhm.
capital of the United States, because, of course, that image is
Mhm.
being shown all over the world to
Yeah.
see, what America can be and should be under normal circumstances.
Right, right. Well, such a great scene. I totally agree. I have the same experience. And yesterday, I have to admit that I just feel that, okay, now we are ready to start, to really start to change the American, to do the MAGA, to make American great again. So
Right.
it was very excited, and very happy. And I really appreciate everyone that stand up for this country. So it is a country, the land of freedom and country.
And I imagine that most of the people of the world watching that snowball
Right,
fight
right.
didn't realize that many of the people in that crowd, my wife, her friends,
Hmm.
have been American citizens less than 10 years.
Hmm.
They're new to the country, loyal to the country, became citizens, and they are among the most patriotic people I know
Right,
that were attending that.
right. So yeah, meanwhile, I'm thinking about people, J6 people, they're still in prison, and there are thousands of them. So I just wonder what you think about for the Jan 6, the truth of this event. Do you think
I think that, I've been to Freedom Corner, which is what
right,
they named the location just outside the D.C.
right,
jail where many of the prisoners have been locked up.
right,
And many people in the crowd go almost every night. There's a crowd there every night, but
right.
many of the same people maybe try to go only one, two, or three,
Hmm.
days a week. Many go 7 days a week, like a
Right,
very good mutual friend of ours that introduced us to each other.
right.
She's there every and she and my wife drive there together, and
Hmm.
she's there almost every single night. But uh, they have been on that corner 850 days now in a row. And you've had members of Congress show up, members of the media. And lately, I was there twice last week,
Hmm.
during the last week, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Oh, you went
And
there?
and we had reporters from the BBC and other US networks and people coming to see the crowd at Freedom Corner. And it's a very emotional place to be because at 9 o'clock well, before that, they pledge allegiance together. So people within the jail make
Hmm.
a phone call
Hmm.
to one of the women that's in the crowd in our group. And then she has a microphone and a speaker there and holds the microphone up to the
Right,
telephone so that
right,
the person calling can broadcast to all of us. And then
right, right.
he can hear what we're saying back.
Hmm.
And in any event, that's kind of an unofficial ceremony includes after about 8:30, 8:40 p.m. It includes everyone saying the Pledge of Allegiance together.
Hmm.
And then, there's a few more. Then they read the roll call of the J6ers who are no longer with us.
Yeah.
Obviously, starting with Ashley Babbitt,
Hmm.
the key member. And then eventually at 9 o'clock, before they turn the lights out in the prison inside in their corridors, and they have to be back in their rooms, before
Hmm.
that happens, all of us together sing the national anthem. And it's very emotional.
Yep.
And even, I'm one of the many, nothing special about me being there, but trying to sing, I get emotional and can't do it. Start choking on the words and just, can sympathize when you see Olympic athletes standing to get the gold medal and they're playing the US national anthem and they're in some foreign country and you see them get choked up and the tears coming down. That's how I get. When I hear the national anthem in a situation like that, it's very emotional to me as well as to them.
Yeah. I totally thank you for sharing this story with us, Tom. And I totally know what you're feeling. I went to Freedom Corner at year 2000, 2022 at August, and I saw that they sing the national anthem every single night
Right.
at 9 p.m. And I know your feeling. I have the same feeling. And I just cannot believe it's 2 years ago. I cannot believe this kind of things happened in the US, in Washington, D.C., near the Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Just cannot believe it. And then also, yesterday marked the fourth anniversary of J6 um, event. So how are you how confident are you that the truth of J6 will come out soon? Everybody will know the
I'm very
truth.
confident it
Okay,
will come out at some point. And it's been coming out in bits and pieces for a long time. And, I can remember just even 2, 3 short years ago when Tucker Carlson was still doing the evening show at
right.
Fox News,
Mhm,
and that he had been given access to a number of the videos. The
mhm,
45,000 hours of videos that they have never all been released.
mhm,
And many of the reports that came out, even on January 6th, the date of it, I can
mhm.
remember Anderson Cooper on CNN saying that Officer Skipnick was beaten to death by somebody in the crowd with a fire extinguisher. And here's Tucker Carlson showing a video showing Officer Skipnick walking around unharmed in the Capitol Rotunda area. And a day or two later, he dies of natural causes.
Yeah,
So he wasn't beaten to death by anybody in the crowd. The crowd didn't beat anybody to death.
no.
They didn't have any guns that they took into the Capitol with them, or sticks, or stones, or clubs, or anything.
Mhm,
So it was a peaceful protest, with the exception that there were some scuffles between police and protesters, which mainly took place on the entrance or out in the open area, not inside the Capitol. Inside the Capitol, you had policemen escorting. You remember the shaman and people like that that were escorted to various places, that were taken to Nancy Pelosi's office. She was Speaker of the House at the time. No one would have found that.
mhm.
You could turn any of us loose in the Capitol. You'd be hard pressed to find some of the locations they were
Right,
taken to. And you
right.
see them, irreverently sitting at the desk and putting feet up on the desk and all of
Right.
that. And then at the same time, you see Shaman, I forgot his real name, but you see him go into the Senate chamber being led. The door opened
Yeah.
by one of the police officers, and he goes in and salutes says something very patriotic about thank you to the police and how great they are and all of that. There was nobody
Right.
that you saw in any of those video clips that was fighting with the police. If anything, they were saluting the police or thanking the police for escorting them around.
Mhm,
And, of course, not too long later,
mhm.
you have Tucker Carlson and Fox News go their separate ways. And of course, Tucker has his own network now.
Right.
But the promise that was made to Speaker of the House McCarthy at that time was that all 40 some thousand hours
Mhm,
of the videotapes of people in that Capitol building when this was going on were going to
mhm,
be released. And they're
mhm,
not all released yet. And, so my fear at the time, which I spoke about, was that if you're sitting at home and you're just, a citizen, you're watching this, and you may live in an area where you have neighbors or friends or relatives that are FBI agents.
mhm,
And my speculation then, and to some extent now, is that the FBI fought very hard to not let any of those videos out. And my fear was that what was going to happen is they were going to show people running around in the Capitol with MAGA hats and MAGA shirts and all of the Trump paraphernalia, and
mhm.
people at home, somebody was going to go, "That's my
Oh,
next door neighbor. He's an
right,
FBI agent." And
right, right,
that was going to it was going to blow the cover of all
right.
of the undercover agents. Now, since then, we've had the Inspector General report saying how many confidential human sources, were in the, 20 or 30 were part of the groups.
Mhm,
But, my speculation at the time, and to some extent now, because it hasn't been disproven, is that many undercover FBI agents were part of that crowd, many of them taking buses from other cities to be part of groups that were coming to the Capitol.
mhm,
And the fact that Christopher Wray has said, oh, no, none of them were agents. Now he's
mhm.
finally admitted some were informants. Well, there's a big difference, but and you would not recognize somebody, a neighbor, and say, "Oh, he's an FBI informant that lives next door to me." But
Mhm.
agents that were either related to you or neighbors of yours or friends of yours, that'd be a different story.
Yeah.
They saw you on TV. people would say it. Of course, the news media would be trying to cover it up and, oh no, no, we can't say that, we can't put that out. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that Christopher Wray then and I think still saying that, oh no, they weren't FBI employees, they were just informants, confidential sources who
Mm-hmm.
are some are paid,
Mm-hmm.
often very well, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not technically employees of the FBI
Mm-hmm.
and or the U.S. government. So I don't think he's been forthcoming, as the expression is, about all of the people that were involved, about all of the FBI investigative work that was done in connection with J6 or the aftermath of it. Then, when they started charging all the people that were part of this, you have Merrick Garland still saying this is the biggest FBI investigation in history. The people that were part of J6 that the FBI went over using
Mm-hmm.
records provided by the phone companies to show
Right.
that they were at the Capitol at that
Mm-hmm.
date and time.
Mm-hmm.
So Merrick Garland is still very proud of the biggest FBI investigation ever.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's what we see now.
Well, so I just wonder how many people and how high position people should be put into the jail because of that.
Well, we should do something for them that they wouldn't do for us, due process.
Yep.
So gather the evidence, get the videos that they can, gather the witness statements of either the protesters or other police officers or other officials of the government, State Department, or I mean, Senate employees and others,
Mm-hmm.
and get their statements about what did they see, what did the police do, what did the protesters do, and just put an end to some of this because I think a lot of it has to do with the protesters, uh, were promised basically which basically in prosecution of cases you always promise if you cooperate, we'll get you a lower sentence.
Yep.
Plead guilty to this minor charge. And of course, the protesters are thinking, what are they going to charge me with?
Mm-hmm.
Trespassing, something like that. Yeah. How many jail sentences, especially in D.C., do we don't see jail sentences for murder, much
Mm-hmm.
less trespassing.
Yep.
And yet all of a sudden you start seeing sentences get handed out 8 years, 9 years, 10 years.
Yep.
Even the shaman,
Mm-hmm.
Chambliss, I think his last name is, even Chambliss gets sentenced and does, I think, a year or more in solitary confinement for misdemeanor.
Yep.
We don't have solitary confinement for felons, much less misdemeanors. So I think that, that the example of the entire event, followed by the hunt to get everybody that was at that event, and then the incarceration in some cases for years
Mm-hmm.
of many of them, is to me beyond the pale of what went in the investigation to get them. Uh, they stopped at nothing to put some of these people in jail. And again, Chambliss saying he was in solitary
Yep.
confinement for, I think, close to a year.
Yep.
Solitary confinement.
I
So,
remember. Yeah, I remember this guy. So yeah, just one legal question, Tom. Do this case has to be held in the court in Washington D.C. area? Because we know the D.C. judges, how they act on these cases.
that's
So,
right. But that's why they don't have to be. But that's
oh,
why the Department of Justice, under the leadership of Merrick Garland, and then the FBI, under the leadership of Christopher Wray, they
mhm,
wanted to make their point. Get these guys in front of judges in Washington that would throw the book at them, that would give them the maximum sentences for minor, minor offenses.
right.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. Tom, to be honest, personally, I really want to see how we can charge Mark Garland and Christopher Wray for their at least misconduct of their duty. So is that possible for bring them to the court, or it
Well,
is
it's possible. I think that you know it it will remain to be seen what the Justice Department does under Trump.
okay?
Because you remember during during 2016 campaign,
Mhm.
the information came out about all of the wrongdoing and illegal things that Hillary Clinton had done.
Right,
And
right.
I went to a couple of Trump rallies, And the
Mm-hmm.
people spontaneously, Trump didn't lead this chant or cheer. The people in the audience would all of a sudden start chanting, lock her up. They would
Mm-hmm.
start calling, what Hillary Clinton did at that time, hiding the evidence, not uh, adhering to the subpoenas that she had been issued for the 33,000
Right.
emails that
Right.
she sent using her private server and all of that, which was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And people were chanting, lock her up.
Mm-hmm.
It became clear that she had committed offenses, excuse me, that she could have been prosecuted.
Right.
And so when Trump comes to power, you've heard all this during this year's campaign. Oh, he's vengeful. He's going to lock everybody up. He's going to get everybody that did anything.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go after her. He didn't go after many of the others that were clearly
Right.
guilty of felonies. So he didn't lock her up. He didn't prosecute her. And then, like one of these vampire movies, all of a sudden she comes out of the earth this year in the campaign and then starts her, routine again. And it's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. So
Right.
she has done so much damage and continues to do it. And
So
of course, then Biden has to give her the Medal of Freedom.
oh yeah, this is the topic that
Yeah.
we're gonna touch on that. So it's all depends on the new Justice Department and see what they're gonna do.
Well, it depends on the president because the Justice Department, people don't, they don't like it when it's clear that the Attorney General works for the President of the United States as a member of the executive branch
Hmm.
of the government. Now, if you remember back when Obama was president
Hmm.
and Eric Holder, the Attorney General, was being interviewed, Holder said, "I'm his wingman.
Hmm.
I follow what the president wants. I'm gonna give him." And
Hmm.
so at that time, under liberals and under Democrats, they want to say Attorney General works for the president,
Hmm.
and if the president wants something, the Attorney General will deliver it. Then all of a sudden, when Trump's in office and his Attorney General, oh, he shouldn't even call the Attorney General. He should not even be part of the Department of Justice. Wait a minute, he's the Attorney General's boss.
Hmm.
So all during the Trump administration, they were trying to basically shame him into not even contacting the attorney general, much less directing him to do any of the policies that you wanted. So
Hmm.
now we have the same thing now. Oh, he's got to prove that he's not going to get revenge. He's not going to retaliate against Democrats that retaliated against him.
Hmm.
So all of the things, the evil things they did to him, boy, he better not even think about trying to do that to his enemies.
Wow.
So we will see. We will see. And I think that Pam Bondi, who I would expect to be confirmed, is
Hmm.
going to be a fairly independent
Right.
attorney general, but I think also diligent attorney general. So
Great.
she's done a great job in Florida as
Hmm.
their attorney general for I think over 8 years.
Hmm.
And I think that she'll be very professional and aggressive in that position.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. And I.
Kash Patel, if he's confirmed as director of the FBI, he has been on the receiving end of the improper activities of the Democratic Party and the Department of Justice in the positions that he's held. And he's another one. He knows how the inside works, and that's why they're afraid, scared to
Mhm.
death of him.
That's great. So let's just pray that she has enough encouragement to fight for the corruption officers and the congressmen and women. So if you have the law and don't apply that, it's just like you don't have the law. So American is
Yeah.
a country law and order. So we have to do it. And then I'm glad you mentioned about the Medal of Freedom that Joe Biden just gave to Hillary Clinton, which is ridiculous. And also more ridiculous, I think, is he gave the medal to George Soros.
Yeah. George Soros. Yep. I know.
So what do you think? Why he doing that? He just slapped in front of American people. And just keep in mind that Judge Soros has now been explored by more and more people and evidence of the serious damage that he has done to American. from the introduce of the immigration illegal immigrants, and he found the illegal immigrants. Everybody knows that, or most of the people knows that, and our justice system. He has done so many bad things to American people, and why Joe Biden still honor
Well,
him.
what Joe Biden remembers is he's the victim. Oh, it's terrible what they did to him. Even the Democrats, what they did to him. Even Kamala Harris, what
Okay.
she did to him. And that was that, making him drop out of the presidential race after the terrible debate that he had with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You have the
Mm-hmm.
leadership of the Democratic Party, the DNC, and others basically telling Biden, drop out. You can't
Right.
get elected. You're not going to be able to get elected for the good of the party, for the good of the country. Drop out. Now,
Right.
later, ever since he actually does it, he's a bitter man. He is he has shown that he is very upset that he made that statement. And lately, he has told White House staff people that work with him,
Mm-hmm.
he's let it out that he's not happy with Merrick Garland. He thinks Merrick Garland,
Mm-hmm.
basically was too slow to go after Trump. And now
Ah.
all of these things. I think you may remember a couple of years ago when I said when
Mm-hmm.
they were starting this lawfare, legal processes to get Trump, I said then they're starting it too late
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
remember.
many technical decisions will come up
Mm-hmm.
and there won't be time to appeal them and win the appeals prior to the election. And that's what you have now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have Judge Merchan in New York going to sentence Trump at the end of next week on the 10th. That's what that's all about. That these cases should have been in court 2 years or 3 years earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
they thought we'll wait till the last minute and then we'll really get them.
Right.
And who got who?
Yeah.
Because those cases are falling apart and don't have enough time
Mm-hmm.
uh, to adjudicate all of the technical issues that come up. Especially,
Mm-hmm.
they would have had to have known that many of the issues, because it pertained to the presidency itself, the
Mm-hmm.
president himself,
Mm-hmm.
that there were going to be serious constitutional issues raised that would need to be argued and discussed and voted on at the appellate level. And
Mm-hmm.
they just thought, oh, there's no problem. We have Trump by the throat.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't able to get him.
Right. They're overconfident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wrong calculate of the time, which
Right.
is a mistake. So I just wonder, Tom, do you think most of American people realize that George Soros is a very bad force to this country, or people think he is a great man, help democracy of this country?
I
What,
don't think, well, how would they know? Because the media doesn't report how evil the Soros regime has been,
right.
the father and now the son.
Mhm.
And, the Soros was brilliant. I said this also previously at the time it was happening. When he gave millions of dollars to some of these very, very liberal prosecutors so that they would not prosecute,
Mhm.
and he was striking at the core of our government, the
Mhm.
ability to have a justice system that goes after bad guys
Mhm.
and protect the country from people that are going to do damage or harm or threaten the average citizen or our system.
Mhm.
And you know, all of that was happening, not being reported. So very few people were really aware of it. You saw a little bit of Kim Fox, the state's attorney prosecutor in Cook County, Illinois. It comes out that she knows the Obamas, and so when Jesse Smollett, the police established that he's a liar. He was not beaten up at 2 in the morning on a street in Chicago when it was about 20 below zero. He
Mhm.
was not out walking around and two MAGA guys beat him up and all of that. And then that comes out later who they were. And he hired those two guys, two actors, to do it. And they admitted it later that he had hired them. And
Mhm.
yet, there's Kim Fox protecting him. And then you have other prosecutors all over the country, whether it's Los Angeles or San Francisco, New York, especially, that serious crimes were not being prosecuted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the irony in a way that you have people on J6 committing trespassing, getting 10 years in prison, and you have people on the street, whether it's New York, shoving people in front of subway trains so they get run over and killed, or
Mhm.
robbing them, stabbing them. All of the things that were happening in all of the major Democratic cities that elected these Democratic prosecutors with the funding provided by Soros. Um, and I think most people didn't know that, had no idea. They thought, well, they shouldn't be making that decision. They shouldn't be doing that. That it was a well orchestrated process to bring down the justice system of the
Right.
United States in big democratic cities. And by doing that, that really weakened the country. The fabric of our country is, justice,
Yeah.
fair and simple. And that when you beat that system and prevent it and allow all of these hoodlums to run loose on the streets and do victim after victim over and over and not be prosecuted, that just tears away the fabric of our country.
Right.
And nobody's saying we want brutal police or, unfair administration. No, we want fair administration. We want people that commit horrible, violent crime to be locked up.
Right. Of course, there's a common sense.
And that's been something that has not happened.
Well, Tom, when I heard you said that most of people or many people even don't know about Soros, how bad Soros is and how bad he bring the damage to this society, I was a little surprised. I think people should know about that.
Well,
There's
how would they know if the media doesn't show it or talk about it or prove it, and you just don't see it? So, many of us kind of assume that the modern media on the internet, podcast, show like Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson now, and many of the others like that, that doesn't reach the people, doesn't reach enough. It reaches a lot, but not in the same effect that nightly cable news, in the aggregate reaches more. And it's
right.
more effective that way. And that's one of the reasons I think TV news, I don't believe it's ever going to completely go away. It's too convenient. It's too convenient to see every TV station with the same message night after night.
Mhm.
And then the president, people want to be patriotic and, well, the president wouldn't do bad things. And then you have Biden in the last 2 weeks of his administration handing out medals to crooks, to people that are bad,
Mhm.
whether
Mhm.
it's Hillary or whether, all of these people that have done so many bad things continue to get rewarded. And so people will see on their nightly news Biden putting the medal on Hillary, and they won't hear all of the things that she did that she should have been locked up and prosecuted years ago,
Yeah.
including, you know, a lot of people may not realize Hillary Clinton is responsible for starting the FBI on the Russiagate case. Now, one
Yeah.
of the main experts that knows all that is Kash Patel. So
Mm.
you have heard that the FBI 2 or 3 years of investigating Russiagate to prove that I mean, not Biden, that Trump was helped by Putin in Russia, and they're responsible for in 2016 getting him elected at the time. And none of that was true. And even Mueller later, he does investigation, and he's starting to show serious signs of dementia, but he testifies that they looked into all that. The FBI looked into all of that
Mhm.
earlier, and they found nothing. They found no indication that Trump and Putin had ever cooperated with each other or had a scheme that they put in effect with each other, and
Mhm.
said that that whole Russiagate was a farce. And then you have, somebody like NBC News, Rachel Maddow, their big star at night. She put that story out every night for a couple of years. And then when it's proven false, no retribution against her. She's still on the payroll of NBC. And all these other people in whether it's MSNBC, NBC, CBS, CNN, all, putting out false information. And then you have Trump. When Trump says out loud in a campaign, the media, with everything that the media is doing, they're the enemy of the people.
Yeah.
Well, when they're doing all that stuff, they absolutely are the enemy of the people. No
Hmm.
question.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just thinking, Tom, for if you're a lawyer, you do some bad thing, then you can the bar will ban you. You lost your license, right? If you're a doctor, if you malpractice and you maybe lost your license. But if you're a media person, you lie and lie and lie and nothing to do with you. There's
Right.
nothing we do to this kind of situation.
Yeah, because
Not.
the journalists have all stuck together and allowed that. Now, something I didn't really know a lot about that's just come up recently
Mhm.
is the reporters that you see in the White House that question Jean-Pierre, the
Yeah.
spokesperson for Biden now,
Uh-huh.
they're picked by the committee, whatever the group is, congressional committee
Uh-huh.
that aren't part of the government. They don't work for the White House. They're like a partnership among journalist companies. They put on the congressional dinner once a year for that they invite the president and all the movie stars to come and attend. But what I didn't realize is that group,
Mhm.
separate, the White House does not control that interview process. They don't control who gets administered the right to come in, administered credentials to come in and be in that room to ask the questions of whoever it is. So that group picks who gets to go in and where they're going to sit and who doesn't get to go in. So this is what Trump just said this recently that they're going to have a new system when he
Right.
gets in
Hmm.
to select who gets to be in that room and ask the questions.
Hmm. Yeah, right. So who is in charge for selected reporters and have put them on a certain position? Who is the organization to authorize everything? It's not
The,
White House, right? Then who?
Not the White House as part of the government. It's the committee of whatever Congressional Correspondents Association, I think it is. They're not government employees, but yet somehow they control who goes in that room and
Right,
where they sit and who's in the front row and all of that.
right, right.
And if those people get out of hand, the committee can kick them out and keep them from being in that room. So that's why you see many of the reporters in there that are just disrespectful and obnoxious. You remember Jim Acosta from CNN, how
Hmm.
he attacked
Yeah.
Trump during his first term.
I
So
remember.
very unprofessional, but that's who selected. So they got to be in that room. And I think Trump is putting an end to that policy and basically saying this is part of the White House.
Hmm.
And, he's the president. They're going to control who's in that room.
Right, 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 right. It should. It should.
Yeah.
And then so I just wish more and more people will know from X. I think X is really good, pretty good for the news exchange, for the information exchange. I wish more people use this kind of platform and know the real information.
Yeah.
That's so important. And George Soros is the people, I think he needs to be banned eventually from this country. And he has been banned for many countries. He's been has been banned from Thailand, from Russia, from Turkey. He has done such bad things.
Well,
Uh,
George Soros actually
yeah,
is banned from his home country, Hungary.
yeah, right,
He can't go to Hungary.
right, right,
And it's come out in some of the interviews that he did 10, 15 years ago
right.
that as a young man in Hungary, this is why he's banned, he
Mhm.
helped the Nazis,
Yeah,
helped them round up Jews and who they were going to torture and kill during the
mm,
Holocaust.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he's Jewish.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I remember I started to know George Soros. It's during 1996. Remember, there's Asian financial crisis. It's led by George Soros
right.
because I have lots of friends come from Thailand. So then I understand, okay, something happening in Thailand. And who is the bad guy behind this? And George Soros. So I
Yeah.
started to notice that. I saw some interviews and saw some background information about him. And I realized this guy, I don't know about the finance that he played the game, but he is not a good person at all.
True.
No. Yeah. So he just did so bad thing to American, and I think American is his target to crack down American, and also this is his big role or a big goal. But why Democrats stand with him?
They want
Democrats,
the power. They want what he did funding the campaigns of all of these prosecutors
Mhm,
and then making it so that they won't prosecute. They'll get elected because people aren't going to know.
mhm,
So they elect them thinking that must be a good person, and they're not. And then
no,
they don't prosecute, and that tears at the fabric of the society,
right,
especially in our big cities. So when
mhm,
you have serious felonies being committed and no real fear that they're going to be prosecuted,
right,
that the law, is going to be upheld,
mhm,
and those cities, it helps contribute to them going down the drain, going financially terrible, businesses wanting to move out, good
mhm,
citizens that might have money to pay taxes get out for
mhm,
their own safety. And I
right,
think that that's been the hallmark of them. And the
mhm,
Democrats, this is why I just have so little respect for the party, the Democratic Party, and some of the leadership, the Chuck Schumers and others, because they'll accept uh, everything that Soros and people like him were doing. That's okay with them as long as it keeps them in power.
mhm. Yeah,
So that's the main thing for them, stay in power.
right, right, right. Well, thank you, Tom, to saying that. I think Soros need to go, and these Democrats leaders need to go. So people should vote them out. And this is our power on to keep this country, to make this country great again. And
It's
then,
interesting, if I could interrupt you 1 second.
sure, of course, yeah.
Um, Elon Musk has talked about primarying rhinos. So
Oh,
Republicans that don't help Trump or don't vote for bills that they would like them to vote for, then Elon Musk is going to fund the campaigns of their opponents
mm-hmm,
next year, next primary season, which
mm-hmm,
for members of the House is, it's a 2-year term.
mm-hmm,
So right now, members of the House, they're about a year and a half or less from their next election in
mm-hmm,
2026.
mm-hmm,
And so when Elon says, I'm going to find somebody to run against you and I'm going to give them millions to beat
yeah,
you,
mm-hmm,
for many Democrats, because that's what they're doing, is one election to the next is a matter of raising money.
mm-hmm,
And now all of a sudden, if their opponent's going to be handed millions to defeat them, they
mm-hmm,
better pay attention to what they're doing, who's
yeah,
funding them, how they're going to get away with it.
yeah.
So I think that, my opinion, Elon Musk should primary some of these Democrats
Oh,
so
yeah.
they don't keep coming back.
Mm-hmm,
And and I think that's what's going to happen is as long as these people keep getting the funding, getting elected, put in the position,
mm-hmm,
they're going to keep doing it because they don't have the moral integrity to
mm-hmm,
not do these bad things. If somebody gives them money, they'll do anything for it.
mm-hmm. Right, right. So could we put this way that like Soros is a bad force who destroy the American society, like the fabric of the society. And here we come Elon Musk. He's a good force, and you can see the threat between them. Do you agree with that, or do you think
Oh,
the
sure. And the difference being that, many of these Democrats groveling for a few $1,000s in campaign contributions.
Mhm,
You've got Musk, the richest man in the world.
mhm,
So if he finds a good Democratic opponent
mhm,
to these guys, it's going to
mhm.
help fund them and help get them elected.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
you can remember sometimes it doesn't even take the money. If you look back, our
Mhm,
current vice president, or about to be current vice president,
mhm,
he starts running for office in Ohio. Nobody knows him, knows anything about him.
mhm,
And Trump endorses him. Once Trump decides, this J.D. Vance is going to be great,
mhm,
and he endorses him, and Vance wins the Senate seat, much to the surprise of many people in the Republican Party. How did he win that?
mhm,
And of course then people were saying, "Who is this guy?" People I know were saying,
mhm,
"Who's he?" And then they hear him speak. Then they
mhm,
hear
mhm,
his background in the military, his background, Yale Law School and all of the academic accomplishments of not only Elon, but I mean, not only Vance, but his wife.
Mhm.
And so now you have a really dynamic duo that are going to be Mr. and Mrs. Vice President in this
Yeah.
country. And
Hmm.
I've talked about, to me, that's a huge relief because I think the threats to kill Trump won't stop.
Yeah.
I think that they're still going to try, but it's
Hmm.
going to be, to me, big peace of mind that the Republicans pick somebody as great as J.D. Vance
Right.
compared to the DEI moron
Hmm.
of Biden's pick.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly.
Kamala Harris. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge factor in the
Mhm.
years ahead.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. It is very important. And then talk about the money power. Recently, you heard that Trump talking about to purchase Greenland, right? And also yesterday or today, I don't remember very clearly. Trump has a press conference, and he said the 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 Gulf of Mexico will change the name to Gulf of America. So talk about Greenland. Do you think he's serious about that, or if this is a thing that he will pursue? What is the what is the benefit of purchasing Greenland?
I think considering there's so few people there and it's such a large land mass and basically protecting the Northern Hemisphere if it becomes part of the US.
Mhm.
But I think that you just don't know with Trump. You know, is this all just, he's playing around with people, getting their attention. We're going to buy Greenland. Um, you know, who knows? The other thing is Greenland is not an independent country,
Yeah, right.
and
Hmm.
so he'd be negotiating with Denmark. Do you want to sell it? Do you want to keep it? What do you want to do with it?
Hmm.
We'll take it. As for Canada, that's a whole other issue now. Trump is going to be, the Canadian people have been living under tyranny under Trudeau
Yeah, right.
and avowed Marxist now for several years. You look at back when the truckers,
Hmm.
had their big campaign and Trudeau tried to bankrupt all of them and all of the evil that he's done.
Right.
And Trudeau has bragged about that the one leader in the world he admires the most and wishes he could be like is
Hmm.
Xi Jinping in
Hmm.
China.
Hmm.
And so, Trudeau is just really, and then all of a sudden what happens? Trump wins,
Hmm.
and that puts the handwriting on the wall to get
Hmm.
people excited that, you know what, you can get rid of bad leaders.
Hmm.
And even though their parliamentary system might be more awkward to do it than
Hmm.
ours, where you just know you're going to have an election every 4 years,
Hmm.
that all of a sudden Trump isn't even really threatening Canada,
Hmm.
but in a way, he
Hmm.
kind of is. And I
Hmm.
think in a way that's what's leading to Trudeau leaving. But Canada is a much more liberal country
Hmm.
compared to the US is basically a conservative country on the whole.
Hmm.
But Canada is not. So we'll see how far this goes. Now all of a
Hmm.
sudden you have Trudeau realizing time to go.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be out.
Yeah. I saw the reaction of Trudeau's goodbye from his position. Canadian people are so happy.
Yeah.
They are just saying that, okay, enough is enough. Yeah, it's time for him just to go away. And there are some people are very interesting to become the 51 state of the United States. They are seriously
Yeah.
express their interest in, but I don't think it's possible. Do you think so? It's not realistic, huh?
I don't know if it's realistic. You're right.
Yeah.
But
But
but the fact that Trump brings it up, anything he says along those kind of lines,
mhm,
maybe they better pay attention.
yeah.
Maybe we better listen to him. And I think that basically, I think Trump just scared the hell out of Trudeau and realized maybe he better get out while he can, the getting is good.
Mhm,
So, so we'll see about that. But, I don't know. enough about Canadian policies to know are they going to have somebody else that's practically as liberal as he is? And
Mhm.
there's so many things in that country. Uh,
Right. And also, I think this couple of weeks there is a big news around there. It's about in England. There are a group of people from Pakistan, and they're Pakistan Muslim. They're really the underage um, young ladies in United Kingdom. The situation is there are Labour Party, there are Conservative Party, but nobody cares about that. And it's
yeah.
been about over 10 years. And I think the whole world is just shocked. How could that happen? To be honest, I don't understand why a government, no matter which party it is, how can you just let it happen in your own country? These kids are kids. They're under 18, under 17. And this rape is constantly for years. I don't know what's wrong with United Kingdom or what's wrong with the system. Do you have any idea what's going on there?
Well, I think what's wrong, not just in the UK, but even Germany, a couple of other European countries that
Mhm.
just decided, going back maybe 10 years ago, we're going to let everybody and their uncle come to our country and actually participate in the government. So you have countries like Germany that have let in so many Middle Eastern Muslims. And, these are countries with a Christian,
Yeah,
Judeo-Christian
right.
background or traditions. And now you have countries coming in advocating Sharia law,
Mhm.
advocating, basically harsh Arab law to be implemented. And now many of these countries are regretting that they just opened their doors and let all these people in. Sweden's another one. You have parts of Stockholm that have turned into Muslim ghettos, basically. And I don't mean ghetto in the poverty sense, I mean as an enclave of like-minded people also wanting Sharia law and undermining the government of Sweden. And now you have leaders in Sweden saying, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have let all these people come in thinking, oh, they'll be grateful and they'll adopt our system. What they're doing is, as they've gone into these countries and gained enough political powers, they're trying to get that country to adopt their system, adopt their Sharia law, and the
Mhm.
things that they want. I mean, we
Mhm.
have some communities in the United States that want to do that. Large Muslim population in Minneapolis area, they want to do that, impose Sharia law.
Mhm.
And so, that's the problem that they face. Now, I think many of them are realizing the mistake. Angela Merkel in Germany letting 5 million people come in. And for these smaller countries with lower populations, a few million people coming in like that is enough to turn the tide of their political system. And I think in the UK, there's a classic example.
Wow. Just cannot believe it. Cannot believe it. They
No.
come here to this country. They bring their own culture. They even bring their own law to over the current country laws. How could that happen? It is not just unlawful. It's just stupid to that
Well,
happen
look
in your
at look at all the
country.
people that have come to the United States legally, friends of yours and relatives and mine also for the
Right.
last 20, 25 years. They come from all over the world and they want to be Americans. They come here and want to adopt the American system, want to, obey American laws, maybe modify it some way, but for the most part, be Americans.
Hmm.
And you don't see these other countries, it's been their demise that they didn't do that. And in our country, the Biden-Harris administration has been trying to undermine it and do just what Angela Merkel did in Germany and these others 10, 15 years ago. Let everybody in that wants to come in. And as soon as they can make them American citizens so they can vote, the better. And I think that, luckily what Trump's been able to do and others is say, we can't have this. We cannot have people come in and take over our system without
Yes.
even without even pretending to want to be Americans.
Right.
Now, one of the advantages that the US has is that a lot of the immigration we have has come from Latin America. Now, Latin
Hmm.
America, for a couple hundred years, has been predominantly Christian.
Hmm.
And so many of the things that Democrats take for granted, oh, they'll support abortion, they'll support all these things. They don't.
No.
And so that's
Yeah.
what's really backfired in a way on the Democratic Party is that many of the immigrants they let in don't want to adopt some new, world,
Hmm.
whatever, world economy or whatever. They want to be Americans
Right, right,
and
right,
benefit from being Americans. And
right.
so that's what's kind of been encouraging, at least to me, is that many of the people that have come in, they're not all evil or anti-American. Now,
Hmm.
yes, they're coming in illegally, they're crossing the border and all that, many of them, including the gangs from Venezuela and some of the other ones. But a lot of the people coming in are conservative, law-abiding people. They just want to take advantage of the
Hmm.
American economic system,
That's
so the American dream.
that's right. That's right. Well, thank you for pointing out that. This is the difference between American illegal immigrants and the European
Right.
illegal immigrants. That's a huge difference, actually, especially in long run. Yeah. I saw lots of our audience have leave their feedback. Is ACEC, and she said he or she said Tom has lots of experience, stories can share with us, and asking. Oh, okay. I think this audience wants to hear from Tom that how President Trump will deal with China.
I think he'll be very stern with China, but
Okay.
he won't be trying to destroy China either.
Okay.
So I think Xi Jinping, in a lot of ways, is going to realize that China is having very difficult times economically compared to the last few years,
Mhm.
and it's going to get worse because they're losing population. Because of that one child policy, and then they
Mhm.
made it two child, and then later now when they said, "Oh no, have more children," we
Mhm.
we don't have enough young people
Yeah,
to pay for the support of their parents.
right.
We don't have, and then in a situation like that, a one child policy, that's
Mhm.
pretty tough. If
Mhm.
that child marries and moves to the US or Europe to try for them to be responsible to take care of two parents or
Mhm.
grandparents, multiple parents and senior members of the family, that's
Mhm.
pretty difficult and it's hurting them. Secondly, they're losing people in their population that drive the economy,
Mhm.
that build things and make things and work in the factories and do all of those things because, many of them are leaving the country. Many of them have come to the US, to Canada, to Europe, to Australia.
Mhm.
And so now they don't really have a young workforce anymore in
Mhm.
China.
Mhm.
And so it's very difficult. And many friends of mine, and I'm sure even more friends of yours, um, they might be in the United States and be very happy and have great jobs, but their parents are still in China.
Yeah.
And if their parents get sick, they end up in the hospital or they end up needing serious care, they're
Mhm.
in a dilemma. Do I go
Mhm.
back to China? Do
Mhm.
I, do we have the resources to take care of them?
Mhm.
And even within China, you have many of the younger generation there, especially young boys, being raised by grandparents.
Oh, yeah,
And
right.
even Xi Jinping has raised the issue that they're being spoiled
Mhm.
and they're being turned feminine. And
Mhm.
so they've done everything. When they were hosting the Olympics, they were making the Olympic athletes and athletes submit DNA samples
Mhm.
so that they could exploit that and figure out what's in an American's DNA that we don't have, so that
Mhm.
our young boys are growing up as sissies and these young American boys are growing up,
Mhm.
macho and all of that. And
Right.
so I think that there's a lot to be learned from that. But China's population is going to, in the next 20 or 30 years, is not going to even be over a billion. It's going to drop by hundreds of thousands of people, and
Mhm.
particular key sectors of the economy that
Mhm.
produce the economy,
Mhm.
provide the wealth to support parents and others. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of issues with China, and they know it. And the
Mm-hmm.
one thing they do know is that Trump may put on tariffs and he may do all these things, but he's not going to try to bankrupt China on purpose. He's going to try to get everybody to be rich, make China rich, make the U.S. rich,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and work together. And I think that, look at his trips to North Korea. When Trump was campaigning in 2016, he was warned by Obama,
Mm-hmm.
oh, North Korea is a threat and they're going to start World War III and they're going to do all these things. And what does Trump do? He goes and meets with him, little
Mm-hmm.
rocket man and all that. He insults him enough, the leader of North Korea, so that that guy finally says, "That's it. We got to meet." And then, basically prevent a lot of additional political damage
Mm-hmm.
from North Korea. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that what Trump has shown is that he's very pragmatic. And so making America great again might mean making China great again, or making other countries that are faltering their economies, whether it's Australia or Japan or some of these countries,
Mm-hmm.
the European Union, they need help. And Trump's basically, he's not going to choke them off and kill them. He's going to do what he can because if they're stronger, we're stronger.
Mm-hmm. Well, so this is his understanding about MAGA. It's not like destroy the other and make America great again. It's like maybe helping others and make
Yeah.
America great again,
And
right?
he's talked about that the leaders of these other countries should want to make their country great again, to
Exactly.
make their country number one and all of that. And not the US doesn't want to dominate, they just want serious partners in the economy and in the world.
Right, right. So he's a peaceful man,
Well,
actually.
he's the one that's been saying that. Everybody said he's going to be a warmonger. Look what he did in his first term. He didn't start
Exactly.
any new war.
Exactly.
And, he goes to North Korea and gets Kim Jong-un to stop launching rockets at Japan. He
Mm-hmm.
goes to, various countries and basically says, stop this,
Mm-hmm.
knock it
Mm-hmm.
off. So,
So,
and then you look at all the wars that have started under Biden,
right.
whether it's Ukraine
Exactly.
or some of these other places. We got 3, 4 wars going now that we didn't have before.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so ironic. It looks like Trump. He's so strong. He's like a strong and then a threaten people, but he's a peaceful man. And look at Biden. He's so weak. He cannot even talk, but he made a lot of wars in the
Yeah.
world. Yeah. And then let's see. Uh, Grace. Grace said that the Freedom Corner, people are saying Freedom Corner is over 1,000 days already.
Okay.
Every single day, 1,000 days. Yui said Happy New Year to Tom, and then Yen Lun said Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you for visiting Corner. Most J6 prisoners are innocent patriot. They should be not only released immediately, but also be compensated. Yeah, I agree. Thank you
Right.
so much. And you said, I wonder where the limits of presidential power are drawn. I'm troubled and confused by Biden's recent pardons and rewards issue. The pardons, and I think this. I know you. She's a lady, and she just said, I don't understand. It seems like Biden has no limit of the power, and he can pardon anyone he wants, and he can award anyone he wants. So this is
Apparently that's true. Constitutionally, he has
right.
the authority, and there's nothing in the Constitution that says, well, we should have a pardon commission that the
Mhm.
president can rely on and
Right.
and uh, suggest who should be pardoned and who shouldn't, or approve pardons. Doesn't
Right.
have that. So that's one of the. Now, in fact, some people have said lately, some analysts have said that Biden is so corrupt and has been so corrupt his whole career, going back to when he was in the Senate
Right.
in Delaware, that they wouldn't be surprised if there's some mechanism behind the scene that Biden has created to sell pardons, to basically receive contributions under
Mhm.
the table, and then suddenly, because some of the people he's pardoning are evil.
Yeah.
And But interestingly, it goes back to if you look at the history of Jimmy Carter,
Hmm.
uh, Clinton, Obama, pardoning terrorists, pardoning
Hmm.
murderers.
Right,
And so that would not be the first time that you'd have pardons being used improperly.
right.
But the Constitution didn't address that.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
didn't say, okay, this is going to be a mechanism to try to make sure it's legal or whatever.
Yeah. So that's sad. So I'm just thinking when they formed the Constitution, maybe they assume that anyone can be the president of the United States is a good person. But unfortunately, maybe not, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this audience, Eugene, he or she's from Germany. He said, I live in Germany. Tom, please, and analyze a little bit about Germany and American, how their relationship will go, the trend of the relationship. I think especially when Trump became a president, how these two countries will interact with each other. And he said Germany is very weird. People don't like American and said American, the US is kind of pressure the Germany. But the German government is kind of follow the Americans' leadership. So this is very weird. And he says, Happy New Year to you and want to hear from your comments about that.
Okay. I think, first of all, Germany, um, they've been the leader of the EU. They've been the strongest economy in Europe now for a long time.
Hmm.
And then Angela Merkel lets in all of these immigrants that she shouldn't have, mainly Muslim, and they're trying to undermine their government. And then uh, it certainly looks like Biden blew up the pipeline that was delivering oil and gas from Russia into Germany. And then after that happens, then we sell oil and gas to Germany at a higher cost.
Hmm.
So that has not helped their economy.
Hmm.
Then stupidly, in my opinion, Germany buys into the uh, the whatever the economy of whatever solar and
Hmm.
ban fossil fuel, ban all of that,
Clean
and go
energy. Hmm.
yeah, clean energy, the
Yeah,
Green New Deal, all
right,
of
right.
that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then they find out that, those solar turbines aren't as efficient. They don't produce as much electricity and it's not cheaper. And that the weather in Germany is so cloudy so often that that hurts the solar panel
Right,
deal as well.
right.
So, they've had the price of their heating and cooling really go very high in the last couple of years. And now some of the people there are saying, maybe we need to build nuclear plants. Maybe we need to have more coal-fired
Hmm.
production. And so they've kind of hurt themselves and weakened their own economy. And so
Hmm.
now the production in Germany is nowhere near what it was 5 years ago.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. As far as Germany hating Americans, I didn't live there. I had many trips to Germany,
Hmm.
and I didn't sense animosity from Germans toward Americans.
Hmm.
Um, but maybe now, I don't know.
Is that all depends on the leadership of Germany, right?
Right. Oh
Different,
yeah.
yeah, different leadership will bring different relationship between these two countries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the situation in Europe is alarming. I hope the amendment about presidential pardon will be added on the Constitution. Yeah, I think that's a good idea because we
Good
cannot.
idea. I don't see that it'll be high on the priority list to do it.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, right.
Especially once the idea of this is that as more information comes out about Biden and who he has selected for these pardons and how many he's given out, the hope is that it would be shameful and that future politicians in the United States would realize, boy, I better not do that. Biden, you heard so much in the last year or two, he's worried about his legacy.
Mhm.
The way he's behaved for most of his career, but especially lately, is he could care less about his legacy. He cares about his bank account. And what he'll do for that bank account, is anything, as far as I can see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tom. This is a good word, a very good sentence of today. He doesn't care about his legacy. He care about his bank account. And that explains everything.
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
Well, thank you so very much. And we have so many topics of today. I'll try to finish the translation later today. And then again, thank you so very much. And we had a big day, good day yesterday. Everybody's happy, and we have 2 more weeks to the real victory,
Yeah.
and the journey begin at that day. And again, I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Tom, to go to the Freedom Corner to stay with this patriot and to tell us the truth in the darkest moment of our history. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Sure. I'll see you next week, Tom.
See you then.
Thank
Take
you so
care.
much. Take care.